You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. And of course, the Brian Craig Show podcast is brought to you by MyPillow, and you can take advantage of all the specials at MyPillow.com with our promo code KANE at checkout, K-A-N-E at MyPillow.com, and also brought to you by our Patreon supporters. Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. All right, we got a lot to cover today, a lot to talk about. There is more breaking news and things happening nonstop today. And, of course, first we're going to talk about what happened with Hunter. This story with Hunter today where he had this sweetheart deal pleading guilty to some misdemeanor charges. Of course, you all know it's been thrown out, okay? And he's facing a trial and jail on serious charges, including a weapons charge. And federal weapons charges are no laughing matter. They are a big deal. And I'm not going to get into the legalese of it. I'm not Jonathan Turley or one of these TV lawyers that just gives you gobbledygook law school talk. Okay, I mean, that's not what we're going to do here. But I think of course, a lot of things have come out, the whistleblowers last week, all these things. But what's happened, I think, what's the biggest takeaway from Hunter's sweetheart plea deal getting thrown out that I haven't heard any of the pundits talk about, and I've been listening to a lot of them today, flipping all over the place, because I wanted to hear if anybody hit on what I'm going to share with you, and I haven't. They're too busy talking to TV lawyers, okay? This got tossed out. It's a sign, this plea deal got tossed out. It's a sign of the trouble that Joe Biden is in more than Hunter. And Joe Biden is facing impeachment. He got busted taking these bribes. He's on his way out, and he is no longer a powerful man in Washington, which he has been for decades. Even when he was in the Senate, he was very powerful. So this whole thing is mostly about, I think, the trouble Joe's in and how weak Joe Biden is. And
well, these whistleblowers have come forward, and I think that had a direct effect on this judge.
It's that
testimony.
It's that and other things. It's
new things have come to light.
It's not just the IRS whistleblowers. It's the evidence of the bribes from Burisma.
And there's another guy coming forward. They say Archer.
That's right.
And they've talked about that in the news next week, who is going to testify that Joe Biden was on a speakerphone, those 24 phone calls, very involved in these deals. Now, if Joe Biden is on camera saying over and over again, I had no knowledge, I didn't know, I wasn't involved in this and that, and then you have evidence, and I hope there's audio recordings of these phone calls, of this guy was recording, but maybe not, but wouldn't that be great if they had Joe Biden on a speakerphone? And they have all this evidence come out, and these whistleblowers come forward. I think that's very damaging.
Well,
to
the
him.
phone calls are one of the other things that are going to doom Biden. But the phone calls, even if they were recorded, you're not going to hear Joe Biden saying much. This is what this is all about. Okay, the phone calls. He was vice president when most of these things happened. Everywhere he goes, because he was vice president, now he's president. But everywhere he goes, back then even, there's a record of it because there's a detail and all this stuff. The reason he did the phone calls over the speakerphone was because if he does a phone call on his burner phone or whatever phone he's using, there's no record of him having a meeting. So what happens in these meetings with the phone calls, Hunter meets with these guys, and then Hunter has to show that he's got the juice.
Right.
He gets Dad on the phone. Dad doesn't get involved in any of the dirty talking and dirty dealing. It's just Joe letting them know, hey, we're friends. Hunter's, blah, blah. Just to let him know that he's on board without saying anything.
What if this guy Archer recorded those
Well, that would be the dream. That would be the dream. I would hope so. Biden's pretty arrogant. You never know what the recordings are going to say.
Right.
But I'd be shocked if they had recordings of him talking about criminal activity over a phone line, speakerphone. But you never know. Joe Biden's gotten away with crime his whole life.
Yeah.
So he gets very comfortable with crime. So he could. But this whole deal with Hunter today is about how much trouble Joe is in and how weak he is in. And I I've been saying the last few days, I think this is going to end with Joe Biden resigning, okay? I think he's going to resign. And
I agree with you on that.
All these,
he's going to throw his son under the bus.
Well, this is what people got to understand. All these things that have come out about Joe Biden lately, and I know a lot of people keep saying we knew all this stuff. There's a difference between us suspecting and knowing and having hearsay and then having hardcore evidence with bank wire transfers and witnesses testifying under oath. That's a big difference. So now it's not that we know. Now evidence has been entered into the public record, okay? That's a big difference. So Joe Biden, all this evidence that has come forward, the whistleblowers, the bank information, all this stuff, the phone calls, all this has come forward through the deep state. This isn't the Republicans investigating, coming up with these things and finding these things. All of this information has been handed to the Republicans by the Justice Department, by the FBI. So the deep state that are after Trump are bringing down Joe. And that's why I say he's going to resign, because they want him out. And I know a lot of people don't want to understand this, okay, and think I'm nuts, but that's okay. Everyone keeps saying they don't want Kamala. Everybody hates Kamala. That is not true. We don't like Kamala. You hate Kamala. I don't like her either. But she became vice president because Obama made her vice president, okay? In the first Democrat debate, Kamala Harris humiliated Joe Biden, brought up a lot of his racist past, and he was out speechless. They hate her. Obama told Biden to make her vice president, okay? So not everyone hates Kamala. And we've been saying for the last 2.5 years that Obama's been running the White House. And if Obama is running the White House and he picked Kamala, that means it's very likely they could make her the president. Joe Biden's so compromised, so dirty, has betrayed the deep state somehow, and that they want him out. So don't assume because we don't like Kamala that everyone hates her and they're not going to let her become president. That's not necessarily true.
Well, I don't think that I think they might impeach him, but I don't think
he's going to resign.
I don't think so.
He's going to resign.
He's so arrogant. He's, like you said, he's gotten away with so much. He is so much part of the deep state. He really believes
they're the ones bringing him down, though, Kathy.
There's all kinds of maybe not. There's so much evidence they can't ignore it at this point. You know what I mean? I still see people defending him, and people saying, "Oh, this is just payback for Trump and this and that." You still have people on the left saying that there's no evidence, even though there is. I don't think he will resign. I think he's too arrogant. And he has a criminal mind, and his thinking is everybody in Washington does this, so why should I get punished? I think he's going to throw his son under the bus, and he's going to make his son take all the heat,
Kathy,
and he's going to be like, I'm not involved. This all has to do with Hunter, and I have nothing to do with it.
There's a couple things you're not – one, it's not just Hunter. His entire family are doing this criminal activity. His brother, his sister, his grandchildren. And,
I haven't heard anything about them yet.
Yeah, his sister and brother are involved in all this. They do everything Hunter does and more, and his grandchildren, and I'm sure the extended families of his brother and sister too, but certainly his brother and sister.
Well, I agree with you, but everything's focusing on Hunter.
Well, that's because the media, okay, and Fox News and the New York Post, because Miranda Devine's there, and she did the laptop book. There's a lot focused on Hunter because of the laptop, and there's all that evidence, and there's not a paper trail with Biden's sister and brother like you have with Hunter because of the laptop. That's why, okay? Now, there's another thing too. So what they could do is go to Joe and talk about his sister going to prison, right? Or his brother going to prison. I think he would let Hunter go to prison, but I don't know about his sister and his brother. The other thing is that I picked up on was Mark Levin said something the other night on his show that I thought was very revealing. Now, Mark Levin, I mean, I'm not watching Fox, guys. Okay, when you hear me reference someone from Fox, I've seen a story about it somewhere, or I've seen a clip on Twitter. I'm not watching Fox. I really wanted to watch that Robert Kennedy town hall with Hannity. I did not watch it, and I must not.
I thought that was tonight.
Is it tonight?
I think it's.
It
tonight.
Doesn't. Well, see, that's how little I'm following Fox. Yeah. I don't even know when that is. But I'm not even going to watch that. Okay, I'm not watching Fox, especially after that Satanic Temple stuff. Okay, but Mark Levin on his show this weekend on Fox said something that I thought was very revealing. And remember, Mark Levin talks to Trump and a lot of other people that have a lot of inside information that is not available to the public. And Mark Levin said, "Where's the money?" Remember, we were talking about this on the podcast the other day. And when Mark Levin said that, that's not something Mark Levin just said, I don't believe. I think he's been told by Trump or one of Trump's circles that Biden, or maybe it could have been Comer, who knows. Biden, according to with Mark Levin's statement, to me, has money stashed away. This bribe money has not been spent. It is stashed somewhere, and they have evidence of it. So at some point, we're going to get a big bank account drop of him with all this bribe money and other monies that they've taken illegally in some bank account somewhere. Where that's what I took from Mark Levin.
I thought the IRS showed that they did have a big deposit in one of his bank accounts of like 8 or 10 million.
Yeah, the bribe money, but the money is still somewhere. That is what Mark Levin is implying.
I don't know why you think they haven't spent it. They have all these homes.
Because what happens,
they've got to have spent something.
They have a lot,
they're running out of money.
They have a lot of deals going on. But what happens a lot of times with criminals, this is very common with criminals and tax cheats. Okay, what happens a lot of times is rich people have dirty dealings overseas. Mm-hmm. They get the money and they have it in a bank account overseas, and they can't bring it to America because either they'll have to pay taxes on it or have to explain how they got the money. And they don't want to do either of those things. So there's a lot of people that are wealthy that have bank account. You hear about this offshore, and they can't access it. And what I took from Mark Levin is that Biden has a lot of money stashed somewhere that that is still sitting in the bank accounts. And I would assume it's in some foreign bank accounts in Ukraine or Cyprus or wherever. And he can't get the money back here.
Well, some reporter asked him, I can't remember when, about the money, and he laughed. He said about this whole thing, and Biden laughed. He said, "Well, where's the money then?" Which I thought was such a crappy answer.
Isn't that something?
And then he laughed
because he's got it hidden.
So it's hidden or it's been spent. Because you've said that you think they've run out of money and they're making more deals because they've burned through it.
Well, if they have money,
so you said Kathy, that too in the past.
If they have money, and if the bribe money, if they have monies that they've gotten illegally and it's stuck in bank accounts overseas that they can't access, that's the same as being broke.
By the way, you can show if you have spent money, you can easily show purchases and things that they have bought over the years, properties, cars. Didn't he have a Corvette and they could go through what Hunter has, and it's easy to go through their expenses and purchases and records. Everything that you buy, there's a record of, and it's easy if any reporter really want to do some digging to get access to those things and say, list all their assets and what they have bought and say, well, they have 4 homes that cost this, and you can probably, if you are really astute about it, you could probably add it all up and come with a number of 10 million if they have spent it. So I think he's got a big family. If he's got the whole family involved, they're all going to want their percentage and their piece. So what does Biden get? 10%? That's not that. Then what does everybody else get?
Hunter,
so they've divided it up amongst the family.
Hunter said,
I don't think it's in some bank account in some big lump sum. I think they've all gotten their piece.
Well, I don't know. What Mark Levin said was interesting.
I don't really know about what he.
What
knows.
Hunter said in the laptop. One of the correspondence on the laptop between Hunter and his sister was that Joe was taking 50% of the money.
Yeah, I was 10% seems so not very high. So if he took 50, then you have other people in the family that want a percentage and this and that, and you cut it all up between everybody. They all spend the money on their own thing.
I agree with you there.
So I don't think it's sitting in a bank account somewhere. I think it's been divided up, and people have spent it. And you had one woman, I read a story, who bought $1 million of artwork from Hunter Biden. And of course, she's a huge donor and has been to the White House 13 times. So that's another way that they're making money through his crappy art. And they have all kinds of schemes going on. And they like to act like he's some great father. He uses his son to enrich himself. Yeah. He enables his son's drug and hooker addictions to control him. And he uses him to launder money. They have a real scam going, the two of them. And I think it's sickening. And I think it says a lot about everything Trump does with his kids is legit. They're legitimate businessmen. These two guys, Hunter and Joe, they're not legit at all. They're criminals. And he uses his son. They have a very strange, weird relationship. And it's total. The glue that holds it together are these criminal enterprises.
Now, I wanted to go through this story.
It's not healthy.
And it shows you how stupid the Biden crime family are. You might think that there's some cunning criminals, but they're stupid. Listen to this. Now, this is in the Gateway Pundit, but it's being reported elsewhere. And this is one of the reasons the plea deal got thrown out, one of several. Attorneys for Hunter Biden have responded to allegations of deceiving a court clerk to remove certain documents from a court document, claiming it was a simple misunderstanding. The Gateway Pundit has reported that the Hunter Biden legal team is facing possible sanctions after they lied about their identity to have the testimony of the IRS whistleblowers removed from the docket in Hunter's tax fraud case. Hunter's lawyer, listen to this, guys. This is insane. Hunter's lawyer called the courthouse clerk pretending to work for the Republican attorney and told the clerk that they did not mean to file all the whistleblower stuff. The judge demanded an explanation from Biden's lawyers. The controversy arises as this plea deal thing is getting torn. So
I think you should get disbarred for that.
These lawyers, I mean, it really shows you what low-level lawyers the Bidens have. These are not criminal masterminds.
More
these
like
are
low life.
These are really bottom feeder attorneys they have.
Well, his
to
one
do something
lawyer was
so
on
weird.
a balcony smoking a bong.
That's right.
The other day. So, I mean, who hires a lawyer? I guess a drug addict hires a drug addict. I mean, I wouldn't hire a lawyer that if I saw my lawyer on a balcony smoking a bong, I would be, and I didn't know he was a druggie, I would be like, okay, I need to get a new lawyer. But no, Hunter thinks that to him, that's just another day at the beach.
Right.
I mean, of course he's going to hire somebody that does drugs. I mean,
well,
you
that's
can't
Hunter.
make this stuff up.
That's Hunter. Now, I want to tell you guys about MyPillow.com. There's so many great deals and specials at MyPillow.com. And remember, with our promo code KANE at checkout, KANE, at MyPillow.com, you can take advantage of all the specials at MyPillow.com. I just want to tell you about two right now, though. But you can take advantage of any of the specials that you see at MyPillow.com with our promo code KANE at checkout. The MyPillow 100% Giza Cotton Dream Sheets with our promo code KANE are just $29.98. And, the MyPillow Giza Cotton Dream Sheets, there's two things about them that I think make them amazing. One, during the heat of the summer, and we're in a major heat wave here in Florida. It's been over 100 degrees every day. Mm-hmm. Because the MyPillow sheets are made of 100% Giza cotton, the finest cotton in the world, they perfectly regulate your body temperature. And when we go to bed at night, no matter how hot it is, and this is the opposite is true during the winter. It has the same effect in a positive way during the winter too. But no matter how hot it is, when I get in bed, the bed is cool and the perfect temperature, not just when I get in it, but all night long. It's temperature regulating. And those sheets come in every mattress size and in many different colors and patterns, just $29.98 with our promo code KANE at checkout. And there's a brand new item that just released late last week. Mike Lindell at MyPillow.com now has an entire line of kitchen towels that are brand new, and they're 25% off with our promo code KANE at checkout, KANE. We have some on the way ourselves, and they are very nice. They come in many different colors and patterns.
These
and
all make
everything
great
else.
gifts. I know it's Christmas in July, and I always start my Christmas shopping this time of year because I don't like to leave everything to the last minute when I do my shopping. And it's more economical that way too if you spread it out.
Yeah.
So if you're starting your Christmas shopping and accumulating those gifts, these are always great gifts. They're always a hit, especially if you have family and friends that love Trump and Mike Lindell. They'll love it. They'll get so excited when they open it up and it says My Pillow.
Now remember, it's promo code KANE, KANE, at checkout at MyPillow.com. We'll be right back.
Discover the secrets of immortality, prophecy, and sacrifice in the new book, Thrice Born, Book 1, Pray for the Angels, from authors Carlos Lopez Avery and Johnny Blue Star, available on Amazon. In a world of ancient prophecies and betrayed angelos, the treasured oracle faces a haunting dilemma. Her once radiant beauty is fading under an unexpected curse of sudden aging. The winged travelers, desperate to break free from a lost world of old old age, death, and disease, encounter a pilot who holds their fate in his hands. Beware the primal, warns the Oracle, for the thrice-born awaits those who succumb to its call. Embark on a quest as the thrice-born, aided by an angelic accomplice, faces the daunting challenge of overcoming the relentless onslaught of darkness that looms over them all. Unravel the secrets of immortality, prophecy, and sacrifice in this epic fantasy where the fate of worlds hangs precariously in the balance. Thrice-born, Book 1, Pray for the Angels, from authors Carlos Lopez Avery and Johnny Blue Star, is your next must-read book. Order your copy right now on Amazon. The new book from author William Thien is now available on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. The Dream Chip. In The Dream Chip, meet David O'Rourke, an intelligence agent turned uploader for the Timelink Corporation, a futuristic technology company. His mission, capture the thoughts and memories of the deceased and store them in the Will of Memories, a protected vault of supercomputers. But there's more to the Timelink Corporation than meets the eye. They're also the creator of the Common Council software program, which empowers citizens to have a say in government decisions. This revolutionary system threatens the power of a group known as the Civocrats, who are determined to maintain their control at any cost. As tensions rise, their leader organizes a mob to attack the Timelink Corporation. The fate of the future is hanging in the balance. The Dream Chip takes you on an adventure filled with technology, political intrigue, and the power of human memory. Order your copy right now on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. The Dream Chip, from author William Thien, and uncover the secrets that lie within. Brace yourself for an electrifying ride of mystery and adventure in The Secret Future, the new book from author Parker Brandt, available on Amazon. In The Secret Future, meet Dylan Thompson, a young dropout whose life takes a mind-bending twist when he stumbles upon a mysterious black briefcase bearing his name and that of a non-existent company. But Dylan's fate rests in the hands of two individuals from the future: Karen, a woman determined to protect him, and Michael, a relentless force bent on his destruction. Can Karen shield Dylan from Michael and save the future from an impending catastrophe? Find out when you read The Secret Future from author Parker Brandt. The Secret Future gives a glimpse into the future. This novel has everything from scientific technology to biological weaponry and non-stop action that will keep you on the edge of your seat, turning the pages until the very end. The Secret Future from author Parker Brandt. Order your copy right now on Amazon.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Okay, so Mitch McConnell, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but to me, it looked like he had a stroke today. It was very strange. Let me read this story, and then Kathy and I will talk about it. Mitch McConnell, age 81, suddenly freezes during press conference and has to be helped away from the podium. And I watched this a couple of times. Very frightening. He stopped speaking during the press conference today. He stood silent for about 20 seconds, and then the other senators come in to help him. They walk him away, and he was obviously very confused. And here's some more details. It says here, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell froze mid-sentence during a press conference today, triggering fresh questions about his health and renewing the debate about whether the nation's politicians are simply too old. The 81-year-old Republican was speaking at his leadership briefing when he stopped abruptly, unable to complete his sentence. He stood frozen awkwardly for more than 20 seconds in front of assembled cameras before colleagues stepped in to help. And that 20 seconds seems like an eternity in a situation like this. Senator John Barrasso, a former orthopedic surgeon and the third most senior Republican in the Senate, made sure McConnell was steady, then guided him to the side of the podium.
Yeah, there was a doctor right there.
Yeah, the senator. Joni Ernst made a sign of the cross indicating she was praying for McConnell. John Thune, another Republican senator, carried on before McConnell returned to the podium and said, "I'm fine." When a reporter asked if he felt he can fully do his job, McConnell said yes and continued. McConnell
of course.
aide later said he felt lightheaded and stepped away from a moment, but he came back and was sharp for the Q&A. I watched this video several times, and you guys can go and see it too. It's on my Twitter. He totally was blanked out. They're going to try to tell you he was exhausted or dehydrated.
Yeah.
It was neither of those. He was speaking, and all of a sudden, he did not know where he was.
He could have been about to pass out, though.
No, I saw it in his face. His face was a blank stare. You see this in Biden? He didn't know where he was or what he was doing or why he was doing it, and he was confused. And when they even walked him away, he started going off into the wrong direction, and then they had to turn him around to go the other direction.
It was interesting, the wordage that the one senator used, because he's a doctor, and luckily he was right there. And he said, he didn't say, "Are you okay?" He said, "Are you finished speaking? Do you want to go back to your office?" And I don't know if that was to cover up something or just to not frighten him. And at first I thought he said it to kind of cover up that something happened, even though it was obvious. But then I'm thinking maybe he just did that to me so he wouldn't frighten him. Because sometimes when people say, "Are you all right?" it's scary. You know. So he stayed calm. He was right next to him, and he just said, "Is there anything else you want to say? Are you done speaking?" And then he kind of just didn't answer him. And then he said, "Well, do you want to go back to your office?" And he kind of looked at him, and then they let him away. And yeah, it was frightening.
He should be out. He should be out.
These politicians, look at Dianne Feinstein and
remember Ruth Bader Ginsburg,
the other guy, that's
Fetterman.
No, the one that you
Biden?
call the Penguin,
Oh.
Nader.
Jerry Nadler.
Remember
Jerry Nadler.
These people never leave their job unless they're forced to leave their job. They will die they never want to give up that power or the prestige that goes with it. They will die doing that. And but back when they were setting up the Constitution and the government, the average age was like 42 years old.
Yeah.
And not many men lived past the age of 50, 55. I mean, women died more than men, obviously in childbirth and stuff. But a lot of men, if you lived to be 60, you were considered like an old man back then. But people live longer now. And I hear Trump talk about this, and he's like, I know guys that are in their 90s and they're sharp as attacking this and that. And Trump's in his 70s. And I understand what he's saying. It's not always about age, but there is something to be said sometimes for age too. But, I don't want to put age limits on things, because he's right. There are people that are very sharp that are in their 90s. And then you got people like Kamala, who's in her 50s, and she's a babbling moron.
Now,
so it really has nothing to do with age, but I think McConnell needs to get evaluated.
He's got to go. I've seen that look on people's faces before.
That blank stare.
It was, it was
scary.
It's emptiness. I feel bad for him. I don't like McConnell, but he's a human and he's a senator. I respect it. Something's up with that. A couple other things I just want to mention. And then there's a story that I saw today that from NBC News that is so twisted. I'm going to share with you in just a bit. Couple minor things I wanted to get into though before I share that story. One, we're 24 hours plus since this DeSantis car accident.
Yes.
And I am so suspicious of this, okay? Now, maybe you've seen it. I've not seen any photographs or video of this fender bender accident of the motorcade from anybody that was there. There's one piece of footage that is taken from a traffic cam that is far away and overhead far away. You can't even see very well. The motorcade stopped. First responders came and everything else. It was a big deal. And I find it so strange that the campaign workers, they're in a car accident, even a minor one, with a person running for president of the United States who's very famous, Ron DeSantis. And no one documented it. I mean, I put everything on my social media.
Maybe nobody cares.
No, in his group.
I mean, that's possible too.
No, the people that are on the campaign. No one got out of that car and took a picture of the damage or him out there. I think there was someone in the motorcade that they don't want us to know was there. I'm not implying there was a mistress. I don't think that. I think there was like a donor or a campaign person, like a Jeb Bush type or a Koch brother type or Karl Rove type, that they don't want us to know was with him in the motorcade. And I think that's why we haven't seen anything. You guys can let me know what you think. Another thing. Sinead O'Connor died, and Sinead O'Connor I learned one thing about her I did not know, that her big song was written by Prince.
I know. I didn't know that either.
And what's the song?
Nothing Compares to You.
Yeah, Nothing Compares to You.
He's a good songwriter.
And I had no idea Prince wrote that song. And apparently they had a falling out over it, because I haven't read all the stories about it.
That was her big hit. That was so big in the 90s.
Well,
I had
that means
that listened to it constantly.
That means that Prince made a bank on it, because when you write the song, you got those publishing rights.
He wrote Manic Monday. He wrote.
Did he really? Prince?
Yeah, he wrote Manic Monday. He's written a lot of stuff.
I had
for
no
other
idea.
People. Yep, he wrote. That was a huge hit too. He was a good songwriter.
I was always a huge fan of Prince. I remember when I heard Purple Rain, the album, not the movie. The movie's awful. But when I heard that soundtrack, that was the first time I had heard of Prince. And I know he had been around since the late 70s, but I'd never heard of him before. And I was like, that was 1984.
That album was so huge. I remember I was in 9th grade and that movie came out. I was never into Prince, even though he is a great songwriter. But I was never that into him, and but boy, I had friends that were really into Prince.
Well,
the movie,
that album, Purple Rain,
it was a good album.
Was out at the same time as Jump with Van Halen, and that was 1984.
Another great album.
Was a great year for music. But when I first heard Purple Rain, the album, I'm like, I can't believe I never heard of this guy. He's so great.
Yeah.
So I always was a huge fan of Prince, and then
you saw him in concert.
I saw him, but when he died and I saw how pathetic his life was, there was this video that came out of him riding his bicycle to the local drugstore, right before he died. And I was so turned off by him.
He just had drug addiction problems.
That he was such almost like a street drug addict, that it spoiled his music for me. But anyway, Sinead O'Connor dying. The two things I know about her that when I think of her is, one, the song, right? Nothing Compares to You, which was just constant. But remember when she was on Saturday Night Live at the height of her fame, she tore up a picture of the Pope.
That's right.
And I hope she came to terms with her hatred of the church and Christianity, because now she's there. She's died. She's moved to the world beyond.
Her son committed suicide
a
couple years ago, so there could be some genetic mental health issues. But I saw when she tore that up on Saturday Night Live. When I used to watch it, it was good back in the early 90s with Phil Hartman in that. And I remember watching that episode with my friends on a Saturday night. And when she did that, I wasn't Catholic then, but I don't like ripping up anything that has to do with Christianity. And I was like, whoa, I would not do that. And they apologized. They didn't know she was going to do that. And Catholics were freaking out and this and that. Well, Saturday Night Live, they didn't know. She just did it at random at the end of her song. But I don't like when singers and actors use a platform to make political statements like that. I think it's really disrespectful. But anyway, hopefully she is resting in peace. And I was never a big fan of her music, but I know a lot of people were.
I wouldn't.
But I don't like 90s music too much.
I like 90s music. Kathy doesn't.
I don't.
But she was around she was around in the 80s too, though. The Saturday Night Live and all,
that was in the 90s.
And her song, was that early 90s or late 80s?
I was in college in the 90s.
I like 90s music. Kathy doesn't. But anyway, I hope she came to terms with Christianity and stopped her blasphemy.
You can pray for people after they've passed away and pray for God to forgive them. Yeah. And so we can pray for her, but you can do that. You can pray for people even after they're gone. And I've seen, I watch a lot of these stories about people that have had near-death experiences. And I've seen stories about people that have died and then have gone to hell. I'm not saying this is her. I'm just saying in general. And they have all said the same thing, that they're in hell and they know they're in hell because they hear screaming and they know they're down and it's dark and it smells like sulfur. And they say they start praying. Like this one guy was an atheist, but he remembered the Lord's Prayer from when he was a kid. Mm-hmm. And he started reciting the Lord's Prayer. And he said a hand came down surrounded by light and pulled him up. Wow. And I've heard many stories like that of people that have gone to hell, that have had near-death experiences, and they just say, God, please help me, Jesus. Or they say the Lord's Prayer. And all of a sudden, that's how much God loves us. And all of a sudden, God pulls them out of hell because they realize in that moment, I was wrong, and God loves all of us, and he forgives all of our sins. He knows we're sinners. So maybe, we'll have good thoughts for Sinead.
Yeah, I mean, the music was a little boring. I was never a huge fan of hers. I listened to the song because it was on the radio
voice, though.
nonstop. It was on MTV nonstop.
I'd never seen a woman with a shaved head before. I was like,
oh yeah, sure. Pierce's Kambata in Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So,
by the way, Hunter. We'll get back on the politics track. I read in the New York Post, Hunter had a full motorcade.
I saw that
took him to the courthouse.
Like he's the president.
8 cars, and I'm sure we paid for that. So he's the president. Maybe he is. Maybe he is running the country.
Oh, God help us.
Everything's gone to hell. Maybe Hunter is the president. We just don't know it. But yeah, he's got full protection, a whole entourage of cars, and people are really pissed off about that. Rightfully so.
All children of presidents have Secret Service protection, and that's understandable. But this thing with Hunter today was a bit extreme. Not only did he have a motorcade, they shut down streets for him.
That's ridiculous.
Come on. That was a bit much. But that's the arrogance of the Biden family.
Yeah.
That's just the total arrogance of that entire scummy family. Now, I've got a story here from NBC News that is so bizarre, sick, sad, and disgusting that I'm just blown away that this has happened. I'm going to share it with you after the break, guys. And this is
I can't wait.
Yeah. I was going to do it now, but I don't want to start it and have to stop in the middle. I want to go through this story after the break. And, a lot of the things that are going on in this country are so destructive, so upsetting, and we're really living in a very, very backwards place. And a lot of these issues that I talk about, like this one from this story, that I think is going to upset you guys too and be pretty upset about that this is going on. We've got to talk about these stories because we need to get this country back on track. Part of making America great again is stopping some of the things like I'm going to share with you after the break. Now, before we break, though, I want to thank our Patreon supporters for their support of the program. And those of you that are patrons to the program, your help and support makes this program possible. And remember, if you're a patron of the program, all Patreon supporters have access to commercial-free editions of each and every podcast episode. And our top Patreon supporters get a live, on-air shout-out thank you on each episode. So the names you will hear now are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, ETW, Chuck, Pamela, Mike P., D., Rome, Wisconsin, Macho, Wesley, Nick, Rick, Melissa, Richard, David, Heather, Arctic Fox, John, Paulette, and Carlos. These are our top Patreon supporters. Thank you all. And if you would like to become a patron of the program, there's a link in the episode description on whatever platform you're listening to us on. And there's also a link on my website, briancraigshow.com.
That just came out, new poll.
You click that link and it explains to you, walks you through how to become a Patreon supporter. All right, yeah, so there's a new poll out, and then we'll break. And this is Trump versus Biden, okay? This is a national poll, Trump versus Biden. And
just came out just now.
President Trump leads Joe Biden 43-39. And I know what you're saying. Well, that's only 4 points. This is factoring in New York and California, people. This is a national poll. So in the national poll, he's leading Biden. In the GOP primary, President Trump, of course, is not only in the lead, he's far in the lead at 58% of the Republican vote among likely Republican voters. DeSantis in second place at 17%. And then Pence at 7%. I don't know who those people are. And then after him is Ramaswamy. Then everybody else is downhill.
DeSantis just cannot. And he just can't. Now they're looking to Youngkin.
Well,
they're going to start trying to get him to run. I've seen he's losing money. He is not gaining. He's losing, and that's not good. He has no momentum. And I think they're going to drop him. And I think they're courting Youngkin now because I've seen a lot of articles that they're looking at him. His poll numbers are good. Yeah, I don't think Youngkin is that stupid. Is DeSantis to jump into the race?
Youngkin is in with all the worst of the Bush clan. Now, in this
but he's not dumb enough to go up against Trump.
In this same poll, okay, so Trump and with all of the candidates, he's at 58. Okay, now they do a head-to-head with Trump and DeSantis. In the head-to-head, Trump's even doing better. Trump's at 64%, in the head-to-head against DeSantis, who's at 27.
Yeah.
So when they
That's a
put
big
together
gap.
all the Trump hater, never Trumpers, Trump is at 64 and just the one-on-one with DeSantis. And so far as Youngkin, first off, you cannot trust a Virginia statewide elected Republican because Virginia, their statewide races are decided by the votes in Northern Virginia. That's where all the government workers work, right? The deep state, the bureaucracy, the departments of whatever, they all live in Northern Virginia. So whoever a statewide Republican is, they're in bed with the Washington bureaucracy. They're controlled by the Capitol. They're like District 2 or District 1 in the Hunger Games that borders the Capitol. It's the same thing. Having a Virginia governor would be like having a DC insider.
Really? You don't like him? I like Youngkin.
No.
You don't trust him?
Nope. And he's in with the Bushes and all these evil people. I do not trust that guy. He's bad news. Now, we're going to take a break, and I'm going to get into this story from NBC News, which is upsetting to me, and this kind of thing needs to stop. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll be right back.
Calling all young adventurers and curious minds. Get ready for a learning experience like no other with Teaching Time for Kids, interactive learning for 6 to 10-year-olds from author My Lee. Available now on Amazon. Learning is an exciting journey, and this book will take you on new adventures filled with fun facts and quizzes at the end of each section. Quizzes aren't just for school. They challenge your comprehension skills and help you retain essential knowledge throughout your academic years. With this fun book, you'll discover amazing animals, volcanoes, different types of weather, and more. Plus, discover the fascinating stories of former U.S. presidents and the world of sports. This book is just the beginning of your learning quest. Stay curious and open-minded to find the fun in all information. Grab your copy now and begin an educational adventure the whole family will enjoy together. Teaching Time for Kids, interactive learning for 6 to 10-year-olds from author My Lee, where learning becomes a thrilling experience. Available in paperback, ebook, and audiobook on Amazon. Order your copy right now. Are you craving the taste of fresh organic greens in the comfort of your own home? Look no further than Braga Farms, a family-run urban farm in the heart of Dallas-Fort Worth that brings the farm-to-table experience to your doorstep. Growing over 45 different varieties of fruits and vegetables in the most natural and wholesome way possible, Braga Farms has made urban homesteading dreams come true. Experience the highest quality greens with Braga Farms' Amazon Prime collection. You'll discover a wide range of expertly curated farming and gardening products that make it easy for you to grow farm-fresh food right where you are. The collection is carefully selected to increase productivity and bring ease to your life. Start your journey back to the land with Braga Farms. Braga Farms can be found at the downtown Dallas Farmers Market every Saturday and Sunday. If you're in town, be sure to stop by and say hi. With a deep appreciation for the land and a passion for helping others, Braga Farms has helped dozens of starting farmers, and they're there for you too. Embrace the farm-to-table experience and enjoy the highest quality greens today. Visit BragaFarmsDFW.com and redefine what it means to eat local. BragaFarmsDFW.com. Have you ever wondered how crisis negotiators peacefully resolve an intense and incredibly chaotic situation? How would you like to have that same confidence and success when dealing with your daily conflicts? If you want to learn how to negotiate your way through any high-pressure or stressful situation, order your copy of Negotiating Like Lives Are on the Line from Los Angeles crisis negotiator and author Jonathan Poltz, available right now on Amazon. In Negotiating Like Lives Are on the Line, the author shares the strategies he's learned over his 25-year career that'll empower you with the tools to handle intense situations with poise and efficiency. You'll discover how to be more effective and a confident communicator in any situation and be equipped to tackle high-pressure business deals, resolve family conflicts, and much more. In this life-changing book, you'll learn to manage emotions and process information during those stressful moments and gain the skills you need to read your counterparts effectively, decoding their words and body language. Negotiating Like Lives Are on the Line is available in Kindle, paperback, and audiobook. Order your copy right now on Amazon. Negotiating Like Lives Are on the Line from Los Angeles crisis negotiator and author Jonathan Poltz, and say goodbye to uncertainty and embrace the power of confident communication.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And remember, the Brian Craig Show podcast is on all podcast platforms. Just search for the Brian Craig Show podcast and also on YouTube. All right. Just search Brian Craig Show on YouTube. All right. Now, this is this story from NBC News, and this is upsetting to me. And this kind of stuff has to stop. Let me read you the headline, and then I'll go through the story and we'll talk about it. This is NBC News, and I just was blown away by this. Meet the Black outdoorsy groups reclaiming the joys of nature. Black culture boasts a rich history with nature, and Black people across the country are enjoying the outdoors by forming their own communities of nature enthusiasts. So what this is about, I'm going to go through this article. There are racially segregated outdoorsy groups where whites are not allowed that are just for Black people, and this is being celebrated. You know, the Democrats brought us segregation before, and now the Democrats are bringing it back.
That's right.
And, you know, this started a few years ago with these safe spaces at the colleges and things like this. And now it's becoming an industry, a segregated industry.
And bigotry against white people has become mainstream, and it's becoming acceptable.
Well, this article is from NBC News. I did tweet this. And it's out of Allen, Texas, and the author's name is Char Adams, okay? And this is what they wrote. I couldn't help but feel anxious as I drove deeper into northern Texas. The familiar coffee shops and apartment buildings of downtown Dallas faded into swaths of land with cattle and single-family homes surrounded by greenery. I'd be spending the weekend in native Blackland Prairie, grasslands for Texas Survival School's basic wilderness survival class. My friends and family had mixed reactions when I told them I'd be with a bunch of strangers camping and learning to build a fire, navigate land, deliver wilderness first aid, learn water safety, and more. Some thought it was cool and exciting, and others told me that's white people stuff.
Yep. That's what they say, that hiking is for white people.
Well, yeah. So I wasn't surprised that most of the 24 participants, a mix of adults and children, were white. I was one of 4 Black people in the class, including 3 Black men, one of whom was an instructor. I was the only Black woman, and I caught curious glances from some of the other participants as I piled my box braids on top of my head to keep the bugs out of my hair. The first night, we sat around a campfire and gave introductions. I was forthcoming about never having gone camping and spending most of my life in large cities. We learned about all the gear we were required to buy for the class, a tarp and paracord for shelter, a rod to start fires, a full tang knife, and several other items I hadn't heard of until I signed up. I spent most of the first night struggling to put up my tent with the help of YouTube and asking myself, what did I get myself into? Well, that's typical with camping. I haven't been camping or hiking since I was a kid. There was no YouTube. We just had to figure it out. But, how rough can it be if you've got signal on your phone and you're watching YouTube? Taking this wilderness class seemed like a natural extension of my love of the outdoors, but my own isolation in the course, because they felt isolated because there were only 3 Black people, made me wonder whether the old axiom was true to an extent. Was communing deeply with nature truly a white thing? I found that I couldn't be further from the truth. Not only does Black culture have a rich history with nature, Black people across the country are reclaiming the outdoors by forming their own community of nature enthusiasts. And here's where it goes. Listen to this. Groups like Vibe Tribe Adventures, Outdoorsy Black Women, and National Brotherhood of Skiers, that sounds like a white supremacist group of skiers to me, are just a few of the many organizations working to provide safe spaces for Black people.
Yeah, because white people are dangerous.
Yeah, to enjoy outdoor activities and dispel myths that the outdoors doesn't belong to us.
Do you think they've always felt that white people are dangerous, or is that just a new narrative that's catching on?
It's a new narrative. Many of these groups were holding hikes and other outdoor activities in honor of Juneteenth. Vibe Tribe Adventure began as Black Girls Hike. The brainchild of Jessica Newton, obviously a segregationist, who developed a passion for the outdoors as a child attending a predominantly white school. I mean, what the heck? A white private school, by the way, she says. So
sounds like she's got some guilt going on there.
Some 1,200 black women joined Black Girls Hike in the year after it launched in 2017, which Newton said was jaw-dropping. She, too, had been indoctrinated into the belief that black people don't enjoy outdoor activities. Today, Vibe Tribe Adventures provides events for black people to engage in everything from camping and fishing to archery. Newton said police approached her hiking group once in Colorado after a group of white horseback riders complained about seeing a large group of black women. I don't believe that. I do think it's possible that some hikers saw some women out in the woods that didn't look like they knew what they were doing and said, hey, I saw some hikers down the road. It can be dangerous in some of these. People die in national parks, okay, because they don't know what they're doing, and said, hey, I saw some hikers. They seem lost. That may have happened, but I don't think they were alarmed because there were a group of black women. First off, the stereotypes don't apply to black women. They apply to black men, but, whatever. Back to the article, though. Throughout history, we weren't even allowed to go to national and state parks because of the color of our skin. Well, when was that? Not in our lifetime.
Crazy.
There is trauma relating to being outdoors, Newton added. There's a lot of healing that we as a black community must do in order to reconnect and deepen our relationships with the outdoors because it's our natural birthright to be there. So racial segregation is how to do this. Henry Rivers, president of the National Brotherhood of Skiers, agreed. He spent decades asserting that black people belong in snow sports, beginning with his own racist encounters as a teenager in New York. I don't know why he's encountering racism in New York. That's one of the liberal bastions of Democrat paradise. You're telling me that in the liberal city of New York that there's racist? And him being the only black person on his high school ski team. They called me all sorts of things, he said of the white skiers. And there's a lot of racial terms I'm not going to say. They probably said it initially to deter me from coming back, but it didn't work. It's no coincidence that Yellowstone, the first national park in the U.S., was established shortly after the Civil War and blah, 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 blah. It goes on. In their eyes, cities were dirty and filled with people of color and immigrants, while clean natural spaces were best suited to white people. Says Professor Jerry Lee, who's a professor at North Carolina State University.
I'm sure he teaches his students all of this.
Yeah, black people commonly saw for whites only signs in national parks during the Jim Crow. Okay,
there were a lot of ex-slaves that moved out west after the Civil War and lived out in the open spaces and became cowboys and sheriffs and things like that.
Yes, you're correct.
They didn't all move to the cities. A lot of them went west.
Let me tell you,
and did stuff like that after the Civil War.
About this stuff. A lot of the stuff they're saying obviously is true, but it's been over for 100 years. Most of this stuff, some of it 60 years, but certainly all of it has been over within the lifetime of all these outdoorsy people.
I don't think they want it to be
and
over,
what we have are a group of people that are uncomfortable being around diverse groups of people hiking.
Yeah.
And, they
have their own hangups for whatever reason.
And they want to be in a racially segregated community. That, to me, is awful. Kathy and I talk a lot that we're a interracial family, and we do that because I think it's important. I know that we had reached a post-racial society many years ago, and then Obama came along and things turned backwards. And now we have blacks that are segregating. I'm here to tell you this. If Martin Luther King were alive today, he would be outraged and disgusted by these segregationist organizations. Now, I wonder what would happen if you were white and booked on one of these black groups and they didn't know until you showed up. Would they tell you couldn't participate?
Probably.
I mean,
can you imagine if you had a white, if you'd say to the argument, well, imagine if white people did that. They say, well, but white people do just naturally. Well, I don't know of any ski groups or hiking groups that say if you're black, you can't come. That doesn't. Just because you don't show up doesn't mean it's a segregated thing.
When
I was showing up,
I don't camp or hike. I don't have time for that.
Right.
Okay. I don't have all this leisure time.
I don't like
that these
or
people have. These people they're talking here, talking about they act as if they're disenfranchised. I don't have time to travel to Yellowstone and hang out in the woods. I got to work tomorrow.
Nobody is stopping black people from hiking. I don't know why they have to act like it's a racist thing.
What this is the projection of racists who don't like white people, and they're projecting their attitudes and uncomfortable feelings as to the other people. The white people are the racists. This idea of racially segregated organizations that minorities are putting together is a really terrible thing, and it really should stop.
Here's the problem. And when you were telling this story from the article, something I picked up on, when the guy said that he wanted to go hiking, the reaction from the black community was, well, that's what white people do. And I think that's a problem. I don't hear that being a white person. I don't think I've ever heard somebody say to me, well, that's what black people do. But maybe in the black community, and I've heard this from our daughter who experienced a little bit of this in high school. And she said that they would tell her she was too white, her lunch was too white, her clothes were too white. I'm like, well, what does that mean? And maybe in the black community, I don't know, maybe a lot of people don't do what they want to do because the peer pressure from their friends are like, well, that's what white people do. So maybe that's why they don't go swimming or hiking or those stereotypical things that black people don't typically do, because maybe in their community, I don't know, maybe people give them a hard time. Like this guy said he wanted to go hiking and his family said, well, that's what white people do. Why would you want to do that? Like, maybe that's what holds them back. I don't know. But if you want to hike, go hike. Who gives a damn?
Well,
nobody's stopping you. I don't care if you go hiking or not.
Martin Luther King.
It's ridiculous.
Martin Luther King was preaching a color-blind society where his children would be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin.
People don't want that anymore.
And all I'm hearing now from the left is this move back towards a segregated society. You know,
for sure.
Our country is more segregated than we realize. Our churches are incredibly segregated. There are black churches, and then there are, I don't know, white churches. They're mostly white, but they're integrated, but not fully integrated. The churches are really segregated in our society, and that's a sad thing. And I've been to a black church a couple times, and I don't know if it was the church I went to the same church twice.
That has a lot to do with where the church is located.
It was an experience like I've never. It was nothing like any church service I've ever been into. It was a whole another thing going on in there, and so there's a lot of differences in the churches. And I think it's sad that our churches are so segregated. One of our neighbors is a elderly black woman. She's lived here longer than we have. We lived in our house for 20 years, and she's about 90 years old. Right? She goes to church every Sunday.
Yeah.
She drives almost an hour just to go to a church that's in a black neighborhood.
That's right.
Even though we have churches all over.
Yeah, she won't go to a church she goes to a black church.
She's a widow. Her husband passed away many years ago. He was white, and they got married in the 50s in Florida. Black lady marrying a white guy in Florida. I think it was illegal then, you know. And they did, but she goes, and she's 90, and she still goes an hour. Now, it wouldn't take me an hour to get there, but I'm not 90. She's taking all the side streets and back roads. She doesn't like the interstates. But for her to drive an hour each way just to go to a black church and a very far away from her house, we got churches all over the neighborhood.
Well, maybe she just likes the service. Like you said, it's a very different service.
It's an activist church.
And maybe she likes that kind of church service.
Our churches
I'm not going to fault anybody for that.
Our churches
her right
are
to do that.
Segregated, and it's sad. But back to this.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people listening might be thinking, why are you caring about these hikers, right? It's because it's not about hiking or the hikers. There's a big movement in this country that the left are promoting. And in this instance, there's an entire industry out of it that's racially segregated.
I remember
and
I
don't want racially segregated anything.
But people naturally segregate. When I was in school, you know, of course, this was in the 80s and stuff.
It's a long time ago, Kathy.
Yeah, but I think it still happens today. Like when Emily was in high school, she said all the Asian kids hung out together and all the black kids hung out together. And like Emily joined the step team. It was all black girls. There were like 30, 40 of them. And I'm like, well, are there any white girls? She says, no. They're all cheerleaders. I mean, people naturally, when they're kids, segregate to people they relate to. I guess race has something to do with it. I think that's just natural. I don't think it's necessarily bad or good. But when you have a group that's like actively excluding people,
well, I think
that's bad.
A difference. There's a difference in what you're talking about in this. These are people that have started up black-only businesses. And this isn't it's okay to be a black-owned business or here in South Florida, we have a lot of people from different countries. And a lot of Latin America. So a lot of times people will make a big deal that they're a Brazilian-owned business or a Cuban-owned business. And that's different than saying this is a place where only Brazilians can come. This is a business only for Cubans. You know, this idea
that's discrimination.
This idea of saying, okay, I have a business here And this is a business that is just for one ethnicity of people and no one else is welcome. That's segregation, and that's not what America is about.
Yeah.
It's segregation and discrimination.
But unfortunately, I think this is a trend, and it's kind of weird.
One.
It's kind of weird to me. Yeah, it's kind of weird because society really, as far as relationships, has become very integrated. I mean, you see all kinds of interracial couples now and white kids dating black kids, and it's not uncommon, and I think that's a good thing. Obviously, our daughter's a product of that. And you see in society, I think most people don't really worry about these kinds of things. I think you have a handful of people that are like consumed with race, like some of your callers today, and it's like they're obsessed with it and they have some bigoted tendencies. But I think most people in general get along with each other and don't worry about that kind of stuff. And I think if they heard about this group, they would be as appalled as you are. So I don't want to paint any kind of a broad brush about anything. I think these are the fringe people. Sunny Hostin would be
Kathy,
in a group like this.
This was NBC News that was celebrating this.
Because they're promoting it. I mean, they want to promote the narrative that white people are bad because all these black people have voted for Trump. So this is part of their narrative that they're pushing that goes along with the white men are bad and that black people need to come back together on the liberal plantation. And that's all part of this effort, divide and conquer. That's what they do. So of course they're going to promote a story like this and act like it's a wonderful thing. Now, that's how they control people.
A couple quick things unrelated. If you were listening to me this morning on the live stream, I was in a lot of pain in my shoulder. I went and saw Dr. Appleton today. Yeah. The pain's almost gone.
That's great.
After just one
treatment. I know, 'cause you've been really suffering.
I mean, I can't believe, and I'm holding my microphone with my right hand.
It's amazing.
I wouldn't have been able to do this morning. I'd have had to hold my mic with my left hand, and it's absolutely amazing. I'll tell you guys more about that tomorrow, but it was amazing. But I want to talk briefly about our new cat, our new rescue cat that we have.
Luna.
So our daughter came home from California a couple weeks ago, got her cat, took her cat to California. So we didn't have a cat. And Kathy's brother called and he had this stray. We took in this stray and she's a cute cat. She's a beautiful cat. She is bonded with us. I've had cats forever. And this cat, and the reason I'm throwing this out is I want to ask your advice about this. And you can let us know in the comments or DM me if you have advice on this, because I have encountered something with this cat that I have never encountered with a cat before. And this is not my first rescue cat. This cat does not know how to use kitty litter.
No.
I've never had a cat.
She's probably never even seen it.
Well, I've had strays before. I've never had a cat that did not know how to use kitty litter. And
I tried to play with her with a little toy with the feathers on it, the little fishing pole toy. She didn't know what to do. Well, she just stared at it, and cats can't resist that stuff.
This we can't. But so this is what I want.
So I don't think she's ever even had a toy.
This is what I want to ask you guys. Okay, just to mind, you guys let us know in the comments. I want to get a long discussion about it. But this is a call for help. How do you litter train a cat?
A stray cat.
I've looked online, and the only thing I can find is how to litter train kittens. This is not a kitten. This is about a year-old cat, so she's a little bit set in her ways. I have never had a stray cat, and I know some people out there may have taken in stray cats and things. How do you get a stray cat litter trained? If you have any tips, and I hope the tips are more than, well, you just pick them up and put them in the box.
Yeah, I've done that 4 times.
That doesn't.
She still peed on my towels.
I've never are my pillow
Which
towels.
Which is okay. I threw them in the wash, but
I'm
not mad at her. She doesn't know. But,
so give us your tips on this, and I'm serious because this is something I have never encountered with a cat ever. All right, guys, we are out of time. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll talk to you next time.
Are you ready to take control of your life and unleash your true potential and enter a world of self-improvement as well as positive habits? Then order your copy of the groundbreaking book, Self-Improvement Habits, from author Demetrios Archantoulis. This is a transformative guide to unlocking your full potential and achieving personal growth. It offers practical strategies and actionable advice that will help you develop powerful habits that will enhance every aspect of your life. Drawing from both ancient wisdom and modern insights, Self-Improvement Habits covers key areas of self-improvement, including mindset, goal setting, time management, self-reflection, and personal growth. It's a unique blend of inspiration from influential thinkers like Plato and Marcus Aurelius, combined with contemporary thought leaders. Inside this must-read book, you'll find proven techniques to break free from limiting beliefs, cultivate positive habits, and learn to overcome obstacles that are hindering your progress. Whether you're a seasoned self-improvement enthusiast or just starting your journey, Self-Improvement Habits offers invaluable guidance and inspiration. Embrace the power of habits and unlock your true potential. And order your copy of Self-Improvement Habits on Amazon and start your journey of creating a life of lasting change and personal fulfillment.